Last video we learned something about the different guards and basic movements, so now we need to take down our opponent somehow. But there's armor! So, what can we actually do? Option 1. Wrestling. Just use your weapon and tackle him to death. Option 2. Beating him to death. Just use enough force and he will go down. Option 3. Armor is not completely sealed, so we look for tiny gaps and stab him to death. Today we concentrate on the third option, but don't worry, we'll take a look at the other ones as well. So, the gaps in the armor. Good thing we have a section in our text which describes the openings we need to seek. Note, this is where the armed man is best to win through the armor. That is under the face, or under the armpit, or in the palm of the hand, or on the arm behind in the gloves, or in the backs of the knees, or below at the feet to the soles, and in the joint of the inside of the elbow, and between the legs, and at the sides in which the armor has its joints. To put our weapon into a gap is what we call Ansetzen. This doesn't mean that we harm our opponent. We just have the weapon placed at a vulnerable spot. So now that we know where to pierce through, let's do this. Phew! That is hard. It's really difficult to hit because this sword is a huge lever. Tiny movements at the back of the sword result in big movements at the tip of the sword. So aiming is really hard to do. Sure, we can hit that way, but it doesn't seem really effective to do this that way. So we need to get closer to our opponent. But when we are closer to our opponent, this sword really gets too long to do anything with it. So what weapon do we use with good thrusting capabilities and at short range? Yes, the dagger! This gives us good aim. We can easily reach the openings. Also, we have good options for wrestling. But wait, your opponent still has a sword. So now what? Well, we can basically combine the properties of a sword with the properties of a dagger by simply switching the grip. By grabbing the sword in the middle with my left hand, I basically have a dagger with a huge lever in the back with which I can deliver blows. In later periods and also in modern times, we call this half-swording. In our manual, this is called the short sword. This refers to shorten the blade by grabbing it in the middle, compared to the other section, which is called the long sword, by using the long and whole blade of the weapon, giving us totally different techniques with which most of you are very familiar with. So short sword and long sword do not describe in this context the length of a weapon itself, but rather the mode in which you hold it. You could also use a shorter sword, for example, what we call an arming sword, and do the same things. So let's switch weapons. So we can easily stab people in the face or other unarmored areas. Hooray! But wait, when our text was practiced, there was often mail covering the gaps in the armor. Getting through mail is not easy, especially with a weapon that is not only for thrusting, but also for cutting. There are many example videos showing this. Also, the opponent is moving and not simply holding firmly against the thrust. So, what do we do now? This is where the fourth guard comes into play. Merk in die Vierthut zu Kampf schickt dich also. Halt dein Schwert mit der rechten Hand bei der Handhab und mit der linken greif mitten in die Klingen.
und halt es unter deinem rechten Ochsen und setz das Eingehülz vorn fast an die Brust und halt den Ort gegen den Mann. The text continues to tell us to drive him forward in front of us. So, this is how we do it. Nice! We have a weapon in the gap and can go on a hike with our opponent. So, we go and go, well, where to? Well, that is until in a best case scenario, your opponent falls down and you can finish him. If that doesn't work, you could smash him into something immobile of any sort. It can be a wall, a fence, a rock, anything that will give resistance. Then we can put the weight of our whole body into an immovable object, blast the mail rings open, and finally wound our opponent, ending the fight.
So when you are lucky, you can use your longsword techniques and wound your opponent, ending the fight. If this fails, you switch to your short sword guard and try to get a thrust in. If unprotected, good, GG, easy win. But if protected, you try to get the tip of your sword into a part where it sticks into the chainmail of your opponent. Then switch to your fourth guard and smash your opponent into something solid like a rock, fence, wall, just anything. Then with the weight of your body, break the mail armor, wound your opponent, and end the fight. Taking down an armored opponent is a hard feat. You need to put a lot of work into it. Armors are engineering masterpieces. They are designed to protect the wearer from harm. So it takes refined techniques to bypass these protections. Next time we take a look at blows with the rear end, the so-called murder stroke or Mordschlag. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see something specific from our text or have any questions, leave a comment below. Give this video a thumbs up if you haven't done it before, and please subscribe to our channel. Until next time, thanks for watching.